The plan was for Celine Dion's son to become a famous singer. Everyone thought he would sing. Everyone thought he would remain in the music industry. However, Rene Charles had other ideas. He finally came clean about his covert activities at the age of 24. For years, the family kept it a secret. His mother was concerned. His father would have been extremely surprised. However, Rene Charles no longer gave a damn about their anxieties. Celine has been very careful of his privacy, and his admission this year explains why he has been so discreet. On March 30, 1968, Celine Dion was born in the little village of Charlemagne, which is close to Montreal. Of her 14 siblings, she was the youngest. Not even room for one more spoon, her mother joked, because their home was so packed. 16 individuals living in one place meant that the energy and noise never subsided. There was only perpetual mobility and sharing of everything, there was no luxury or peaceful spot. With over 20 mouths to feed, Celine was a baby in a chaotic world. Her family lived in a busy, noisy, and impoverished neighborhood like most others. They lived the same way as everyone else, so they were unaware that they were having difficulties, she subsequently stated. Not even a crib was waiting for her. Her parents put her in a dresser drawer lined with blankets when she got home from the hospital. It was not a strange choice. That was all they could do. No space for baby furniture and no funds for extras were available. The average Canadian family at the time earned about $6,000 annually, but the Deans had a lot more kids and significantly less money. Her early years were influenced by constraints and difficult decisions. Space did not become available as she developed. The tightness only increased. Celine was forced to sleep in a tiny bed with several sisters, often 3-to-1 mattress. Couches, floors, and even corridors were used as sleeping places because the house was so crowded. She subsequently said that girls slept in close quarters every night, like sardines. It took more than a few years of cramming in. It continued till her adolescence. The majority of Canadian households were getting smaller, but hers felt like a crowded village all by itself. Her father was a butcher who put in long hours for meager compensation. In addition to running the family and making clothes out of hand-me-downs and scraps, her mother stayed at home. The family's main motivation was survival rather than savings. There was always music in the air, though, despite all the difficulties. Her father was a singer. Her mother was a violinist, and even a song inspired her name. They gave her the name Celine in honor of a French ballad they adored, seemingly in a silent wish that their young girl might one day sing that melody. However, despite all of the music and love at home, the outside world wasn't kind. Celine was regularly teased in school. She didn't appear like the other youngsters, was thin, and had large teeth. She was referred to as a vampire. Not only did the teasing occur occasionally, but it was daily. Celine subsequently claimed that the bullying had left her with lifelong scars. She recalled how terrified she was to enter the classroom knowing exactly what was going to happen. Images from that era of childhood depict a shy girl who appeared insecure and attempting to blend in. The situation didn't improve when she started performing in public as a teenager. Her appearance was ridiculed by local media, who dubbed her Canine Dion due to her teeth. Despite her youth, adult journalists joined in the mockery. Although the headlines emphasized her beauty, she was receiving attention for her voice. She had had enough by the age of 18. After discreetly withdrawing, undergoing dental work, braces, and caps, she returned prepared to be judged on her abilities rather than her appearance. For her, school had never been a happy place. Simply put, I hated school, she once said. It was more than just bullying. She felt as though she had no place there. She received her true education at home. She learned from her siblings. She learned at the dinner table. Not from books or chalkboards, but from the people in her immediate vicinity, she learned how to sing, perform, and survive. Despite financial hardship, the Dion family persevered. They literally formed a band. Each of the 14 kids participated. They played at local venues all throughout Quebec and referred to themselves as Dion's family. At the age of 5, Celine performed at her parents' piano bar. No one treated her as a novelty. She took part in it. She had written and recorded a demo of her first song by the time she was 12 years old. In 1973, she gave her first public appearance at her brother Michel's wedding. This was more than just a good time. It was about surviving. The shows generated revenue. More significantly, Celine was given a stage. The family basement gave her a sense of security, whereas the schoolyard made her feel insignificant. She would not spend time with pals after school. After running home, she would join her siblings in making music. She found sanctuary in their basement. It was full with instruments, singing, and laughter, and it was lively and noisy. That basement was where Celine discovered her voice. That's where she transformed suffering into strength. She used every note she sung as an act of resistance against the world that made fun of her. In June 1980, a young girl and her family entered a nearby studio. The money they had accumulated was barely enough to record a demo. It was nothing extravagant, just a few straightforward tunes that she had composed with her mother and siblings' assistance. The majority of children at that age were still learning how to ride a bike. This female, however, was thinking of something else. Music. She sang into a studio microphone that day while her family was around, unknowingly starting a journey that would eventually earn hundreds of millions of dollars. It began in a kitchen and would eventually reverberate in stadiums all over the world. Therese, her mother, did not merely trust her voice. She put all her money on it. For the sole purpose of sending that demo to a man named Rene Angelil, she mortgaged their family home. Celine looked up to Rene, the most well-known singer in Quebec, whom he managed, which is why she chose him. The family, however, could only afford to send one tape. Everything would end if it ended up in the wrong hands or in the trash. The Dions had 14 children. Their dad worked as a baker. This was not only a chance. It was all they had. And that tape somehow made it. Rene heard. It wasn't just a tune he heard. There was a sound he had never heard before. It was the best voice he had ever heard, he later said. He cried, according to some. He sat there, in shock, according to others. Everyone was astonished by his next action. He put more than $100,000 of his own home under mortgage to support her career. A 12-year-old girl who has never performed on stage before. He didn't care when friends told him he was insane. He thought. She was already becoming well-known in Quebec by 1983. She was victorious in Eurovision by 1988. She was only beginning. Their initial encounter was not a formal audition. Not even a functioning microphone was with Rene when the Dion family arrived. "Pretend that you're singing to a packed stadium," he replied, passing her a pencil. She didn't think twice. As if her life depended on it, she stood there singing Sinead Conrev while holding a pencil. Rene was shocked by what he was hearing. She sung as if there were 10,000 people in the room, he later claimed. Although there were actually only a manager and a few family members, that moment cemented her future. 9 French-language albums were released by Celine between the ages of 13 and 18. Exams and school dances were the main concerns of teenagers. Celine continued to record songs. She was the first Canadian artist to win a gold record in France at the age of 15, making history there. It was called D'amour or Damadier. Celine Dion was only 18 when she had a secret that she was unable to share. Rene Angelil, her 44-year-old manager, had captured her heart. It went beyond the age difference, which would have been enough to start rumors. She shared a room with her mother and stored a picture of him beneath her pillow, where she gazed every night. Physically, she felt ill from her obsession. She thought about him. She was unable to sleep. It was impossible, she realized. Rene was already twice divorced. He was of legal age to be her dad. She was unable to stop herself, though. The feelings became stronger the more forbidden it felt. Before her mother learned, no one in her family was aware. Celine had always had the strongest advocate in Therese Dion. She assisted in the beginning of her profession. Her voice was one she trusted. However, she was shocked to learn that her adolescent daughter had fallen in love with a man who was almost 30 years her senior. Not only was Rene older, Celine has known him since the age of 12. Therese thought it was risky and hazardous. She went up to Celine, presumably hoping the fad would end. Celine, however, refused to back down and instead held her ground. "We are a free nation," she informed her mother. "Anybody I want, I can adore." She wasn't merely defending her emotions. She was battling to become independent. She was determined not to let anyone stop her. When she reached 19, a year later, everything was different. What started off as a covert crush developed into a committed relationship. Their first formal date took place in private and without any publicity. Rene concealed their affair for years. Only close relatives and friends were aware. They took care. They were aware of criticism. They were prepared to wait, though, because their love was genuine. They remained hidden from view. Behind the scenes, their relationship continued to deepen, even though he was still her mentor and boss. Made a startling choice while her early stardom was at its height. She was out of the public eye for 18 months. No scandal arose. It had a plan. She got fluent in English, changed her hairstyle, and kept her teeth. She had had enough of being a child celebrity. She aspired to be universal. She was totally changed when she returned from the sabbatical, which started in late 1986. The world observed that her image had changed, but her voice had remained the same. Then came the life-altering night. Over 600 million people saw Celine Dion win the Eurovision Song Contest on April 30, 1988. She was just 20. The show was electrifying. She performed for Switzerland rather than Canada, but it made no difference. Switzerland narrowly defeated the UK, 137 to 136, when the final votes were counted. Her tight victory instantly made her famous throughout Europe. Ne partez pas sans moi was the final French-language song to win the competition. Celine, a modest teenager from Quebec, rose to fame on the continent. She made her greatest breakthrough to date in 1990. Everything changed when she released Unison, her debut album in the English language. In the US, it sold more than 1.2 million copies and achieved platinum status. In Canada, it received 7 platinum certifications. It was nearly unheard of for a French-speaking musician to reach number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 with the hit track, "Where Does My Heart Beat Now?" However, Celine made it appear natural. She won the Juno Awards for Album of the Year and Female Vocalist of the Year for the album. She was no longer merely a Canadian celebrity. She was rapidly making a name for herself in the pop world. She made her first significant appearance on American television that same year on Jay Leno's Tonight Show. When Leno heard her perform live, he stared directly into the camera and said she will have a remarkable career. That was an important occasion. Before, no one has made such a statement about a new French-Canadian performer. Nevertheless, in the end, it worked perfectly. She had opportunities all around the United States thanks to that one TV moment. 2 years later, she was referred to as once in a generation by the Wall Street Journal, which typically focuses on business and money. Even her crew was taken aback by such a major outlet's appreciation. Pop stars were no longer being used to compare her to. Legends were assembling around her. She was finally receiving the credit she deserved from reviewers, and her powerful and memorable voice had become her trademark. Then came the evening of her 24th birthday, which fell on March 30, 1992. Peabo Bryson and Celine sang Beauty and the Beast on the Academy Awards stage. The song was the recent Grammy and Oscar winner. Her performance stopped the show as she performed it live in front of the biggest people in Hollywood. Her next English-language CD was released that same evening. It was an immediate buzz. She was back on The Tonight Show in less than a day. By then, everybody was in agreement. The prediction made by Jay Leno had come true. Celine Dion shocked the nation on December 17, 1994, when she got married live on national television. Millions of Canadians watched her walk down the aisle at Montreal's Notre Dame Basilica. At the age of 26, she was dressed in a silk gown with a 20-foot train and a 7-pound tiara. More than 10,000 fresh flowers were used to decorate the chapel, which was packed with more than 500 people. The fact that it was Celine and Rene Angelil's first public declaration of their romance only added to the drama. He was 26 years her senior, and their romance had remained under wraps until that point. After their wedding, however, things weren't so simple. Despite experiencing years of grief while attempting to conceive, her music career continued to reach new heights. Her fertility treatments began in her early 30s and lasted for almost 10 years. Rene's diagnosis of throat cancer in 1999 made everything even more difficult. They froze his sperm before starting treatment, but the doctors quickly discovered that his sperm count was already low. This made natural conception nearly impossible. At least 7 IVF cycles were completed by them. Both of them suffered from emotional and physical exhaustion. There was also a miscarriage. Celine maintained these traumatic experiences hidden while being one of the most well-known voices in the world. It seemed like a silent miracle when she gave birth at last. She took a plane to a prestigious reproductive clinic in New York in May 2000 for 2 surgeries. Only 4 days separated the operations. After that, her staff advised her to take at least 10 days off. She took a total break from her job to concentrate on having a child. She was under a great deal of strain, both from the media and from her own aspirations. She persisted, though. Their son was then born in Florida on January 25, 2001. They gave him the name Rene Charles. He came 3 weeks early, weighing 6 pounds, 8 ounces. The age of Celine was 33. She was joined in celebration by the entire world. It was the ideal moment after years of disappointment and sorrow. To concentrate on her new family, she took a 3-year hiatus from the spotlight. There was more to the happy ending. It served as evidence of the power of patience and hope. However, the tale did not stop there. Few people anticipated Celine's 2001 interview. Another embryo, still frozen, was produced during the IVF process to conceive Rene Charles. She claimed that she was so devoted to it that she couldn't bear to let it go unused. It remained frozen for nearly 9 years. Then, in 2010, it assisted in the birth of her twin boys. Once, the same science that made her a mother also offered her the opportunity to grow her family. Celine was already one of the most well-known musicians in the world even before any of this. Her album Falling Into You was published in 1996. Everything was altered by the record. Globally, it sold more than 32 million copies. About 12 million of them were sold in the US. An additional 2.1 million came from the UK. It was more than a bestseller. It was the 1997 Grammy winner for Album of the Year. It outperformed albums by Beck and the Beatles. Sales in Canada, Australia, France, and Germany all surpassed 1 million. Songs like It's All Coming Back to Me Now and Because You Loved Me are still popular even after 25 years. By itself, those tunes sold millions of copies. Next up was the song No One Could Escape. My Heart Will Go On, which was released in 1997 for the Titanic movie, became her career's biggest hit. It sold 18 million hard copies by 1998. It topped the charts in more than 20 countries. For 17 weeks, it topped the Eurochart's Hot 100 in Europe. More than 4.6 million physical copies were produced in the UK, France, and Germany combined. In a single month, its radio play in the US reached 117 million listeners, setting a record at the time. Even now, hundreds of millions of people watch it every year. A whole new generation is still learning about it. One song or album wasn't the only factor in this accomplishment. With 2 albums that sold over 30 million copies, Celine became the first female artist to achieve this feat. For Falling Into You, 32 million people watched. Released in 1997, Let's Talk About Love went on to earn 31 million. It's something no other female artist has done. These also weren't fleeting hits. They spent months on the charts all around the world. Songs like My Heart Will Go On enabled them to reach previously unthinkable heights. She altered the course of events in Las Vegas in 2003. Caesar's Palace constructed an arena for her that cost $95 million. 4,300 people could fit in what was known as the Colosseum. Prior to that, fading stars were thought to make their last trip in Vegas. Celine, however, showed such was not the case. She sold almost 3 million tickets over the course of 5 years. It brought in more than $385 million. Due to her success, several well-known celebrities, including Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, and Elton John, followed suit. Her experience served as the model for contemporary Vegas residences. There was nothing like Celine Dion and Rene Angelo's love tale. But beneath the lights, music, and celebrity, they fought a personal struggle for 17 agonizing years. In April 1998, Rene received her initial throat cancer diagnosis. Doctors described his recovery as amazing after he persevered through surgery and treatment. But the cancer returned. There was another tumor in December 2013. Despite its removal, the damage had already been done. Rene was unable to eat. He needed to be fed via a tube. Tended to it herself, taking care of him in between practices and shows. Nevertheless, Rene continued to be active in her work. He influenced her Las Vegas performances and international tours even though he was mute. Every time his cancer came back, Celine let everything go. Her Las Vegas performances and an upcoming Asian tour were cancelled in August 2014. These choices weren't insignificant. She never thought twice about the millions they cost. She stated that she wished to devote all of her focus to her husband's recovery. She was one of the best-selling musicians in the world at the age of 32 when she shocked everyone by stepping away from the limelight at the beginning of 2000. In addition to assisting Rene in her recuperation, she took a 2-year hiatus to begin their family. Coming directly from the heart, it was a unique act in the music industry. That choice was successful. At the age of 42, Celine gave birth to twins in October 2010. Eddie and Nelson were their names. But getting there wasn't simple. 6 cycles of IVF were performed on her. 1 miscarriage occurred to her. Embryos that had been preserved for years produced the twins. They weighed somewhat more than 5 pounds each. One was named after Nelson Mandela, and the other after Celine's longtime producer, Eddie Marnay. I thought it was a miracle. He and Celine continued to be partners even as Rene's health deteriorated. Together, they worked on her Las Vegas residency. In January 2016, at the age of 73, Rene passed away. She was feeding him by herself in the last few months. Despite having resigned as her manager, he remained the driving force behind her success. She fulfilled her pledge to be at his side all the way to the end. The 2024 documentary I Am Celine Dion showed viewers a hitherto undiscovered aspect of her life. Cameras caught her having a seizure during a recording session, which is one eerie moment. She tensed up. She let forth a painful moan. She had been unable to move or speak for about 8 minutes. Her medical staff had to take quick action, administering 2 doses of emergency nasal spray while attempting to maintain her consciousness. Celine persuaded the director to continue filming even though he wanted to stop. She wanted others to understand what it's truly like to deal with her condition. The world was stunned by Celine's diagnosis. SPS, or stiff person syndrome, was what she had. It is found in only 1 or 2 out of every million persons. Muscle contractions brought on by the disease may be elicited by touch, music, or even emotion. It can cause spinal injury, twisting of the body, and loss of walking ability. It cannot be cured. Injections of botulinum toxin and benzodiazepines are frequently used as forms of treatment. Celine's diagnosis followed years of perplexing symptoms. It wasn't discovered by doctors until the pandemic allowed her to finally pause and concentrate on her health. She had previously kept her sickness a secret from the public. She continued to perform even when she was in pain and her voice refused to cooperate. She performed at up to 70 shows in 1 year. Behind the scenes, she continued to maintain appearances, test various treatments, and meet specialists. Pretending that everything was all right almost broke her, but she didn't want to disappoint her fans. Her illness wasn't officially confirmed by doctors until August 2022. She revealed the truth to her admirers in December. The burden of concealing it had finally been lifted. Her boys now work as part of her care team. Despite just being 14 years old, Celine has taught Nelson and Eddie how to recognize crisis warning signs. They are skilled at making her change her mind. They are able to activate the house's panic buttons. They know when to ask for assistance. Their practice sessions are conducted every night. Additionally, they inquire as to whether she is taking too long to get ready for bed. Although it's a duty no youngster should have, they manage it with affection. Despite Rene's absence, Celine continues to feel his presence. She claimed to frequently feel his presence in 2021. She talks to him about difficult situations. When her condition is at its worst, she senses his presence. He served as her manager, best friend, and spouse. She's never lost that connection. People all throughout the world have acknowledged Celine's strength. She was awarded France's highest civilian accolade, the Legion of Accolade, on May 22, 2008. At the Élysée Palace, President Nicolas Sarkozy presented it to her. Seldom do outsiders ever get it. Her French-language album, Do, had sold over 12 million copies by that point, making her the most successful French-language performer in history. She was listed by Rolling Stone as the 10th greatest Canadian musician of all time in 2023. She came in right after such icons as Neil Young and Joni Mitchell. No other Canadian solo female pop artist came in higher. She received the accolades decades after her first successful songs, demonstrating that her influence has endured despite every shift and trend in the sector. Rene Charles, her oldest son, is establishing himself. He has achieved success at the age of 24 in two quite distinct realms. His hip-hop EP was published in 2021. He stunned the poker community in July 2025 by making it far into the Poker Main Event World Series. With 2.8 million chips, he advanced to day 5 out of over 9,700 players. He demonstrated that poker skill is inherited and earned almost $70,000. Rene, his father, had also played seriously. Rene Charles is currently carrying on the tradition while holding cards in one hand.